All right, everyone. Coach Ben here, and this is Bench Talk Live. Happy to be here chatting with y'all today. Got some more great questions, and I will take your questions live. So if you're having any bench issues, feel free, drop them in here. We will work on correcting that for you. All right, bench tips, whatever you want to talk about, guys. Again, I'm here live with you. Drop anything that you want to talk about. Sip of coffee for the working man. You know the deal on this podcast. Whether you're watching live, you're listening in, have your coffee ready. This is a sip of coffee to the working man. Mm, gotta love a little espresso mixed in with some Dean's Beans coffee out in Western Mass. This is again a coffee that was sent to me by one of our athletes, Beth Moonstone. And I really appreciate that. If anyone wants to send me coffee, I'll be sort of sip it for you here on the podcast. Anyways, I want to get into some great questions. Okay. We had some good stuff coming from Instagram, and let's get to it. First on Instagram, here we got Dan Roberg. I've been going pretty heavy for a few months, and my strength seems to be going down. What is a good change-up? So I'm not sure how you've been working that programming there, Dan. Um, if you're trying to go heavy too often, that's usually what you're going to experience. So I'm not sure if it's on the same movement. So if you've just been competition benching straight weeks, trying to see an increased improvement each time, that's going to be hard to do. That is going to be a hard thing to do. Eventually, you're going to stall out. All right, so you either kind of wave back if you're looking to do that linear type progression. You switch up movements. It can be a slight variation. You can throw bands on, you can throw chains on, you can do a different bar, you can take a different grip, and build that up for some time. So you're either switching the exercise, you're switching, any type of variable there, and that might be good enough to continue to get you to progress, and then you can come back to that comp movement. So we'd have to dig a little bit further in there to really see what you've been doing, my friend. But yeah, I would definitely look to switch things up in a close capacity, whether it's a grip, you're using a board, slingshot, anything like that. Seb Hunter, having problems 2 to 3 inches off my chest when pushing a max. Is that an upper back problem? Sometimes not. So it depends if you're using your back first and foremost appropriately. When you press the bar, one of the greatest cues I can tell you guys, real simple. Press yourself away from the bar. Don't press the bar away from you. You want to use the pad itself as leverage to help you get that weight up. Kind of like if you were pinned up against the wall, right? Be able to maneuver, right? Push away using the leverage of the wall. So um, when you're pressing the weight up, you need to keep your upper back dialed in terms of keeping the scaps pulled towards your hips. If you're doing a good job of this and you stall out 2 to 3 inches up, it's probably a tricep weakness because you're heavily going to be relying on your triceps to finish that weight. If you are not doing a good job of keeping your upper back locked down, then you are going to need to work on that. And that might be a strength issue, or it might just be you need to dial in that technique. So it's hard to say. First off, it's a technique issue. If it's a strength issue, if it's an upper back problem at all, we probably have to see how you're benching. But that's one tip that I give all of you guys is press away from the bar. Don't try to press the bar away from you. All right. Lock down that back during the press as well. If you do such a great job of it in the setup and the takeout, we're focusing so much on keeping that upper back retracted and pulled down. Don't go and lose it when you press the bar. What we often see is once you go to press the bar, right, the scaps, you kind of forget those. You don't stay mindful of those, and you just start to drift right into your shoulders. All right, and that was actually happening to me this weekend for benching. Sometimes you know what to do, and you just have a hard time executing it. All right, and then in that case, sometimes you just need more warm-ups. Find out what's not moving right. Matt says, with training the triceps for heavy, low rep work, do you use more compound movements or isolation, press downs, push downs, things like that? So if I'm training heavy, low rep work on the triceps, it's going to be in a big movement pattern. It's never usually going to be on a push down. I mean, the heaviest that I've gone on some type of an isolation move, probably on a straight bar push down. I'll tend to maybe push that a little bit heavier. But for the most part, none of that, maybe rolling dumbbell triceps, just because you have a little bit of that momentum to carry through with the lats or skull crushers. Those might be quote unquote isolation movements that I'd go heavier on. But for the most part, anything that's really isolative with a push down is going to be a higher rep variation, talking anywhere from 12 to 20 reps. And then, as you mentioned, any compound type movement, that's where the lower reps are going to come in. So that's if we're talking like a close grip bench, a pin press. If I do a close grip floor press, for example, that's where it's going to probably be lower rep, but going to have that emphasis on the triceps. What's up, Logan Barbell? If I have my feet under the bench in a close stance on the balls of my feet, I can get more leg drive but less stability. So he's talking about the toes back type of leg drive stance. If I have my feet flat and on the sides of the bench, I get less leg drive but more stability. He's talking about the feet out flat style of leg drive. And then he says, should I find a middle ground? So there is no great middle ground for that because you're talking about two different styles. I mean, maybe you could find a middle ground if you were talking about one specific style, but there's no real good way to mix both of those. They're two different styles of leg drive, and you're going to have to dial one or the other in. You can find variations within those styles, but there's no great way to combine the two. It sounds like you're having a better time with leg drive with the toes back. So you're getting probably more out of driving the heel down, using your quads to your advantage as well, and feeling tighter that way in terms of putting pop into the bar. But when you take your feet out flat, you start to lose that. And usually the case is when lifters do that, because I actually find that I have better leg drive, and I can get someone to have better leg drive, much better leg drive with a feet out flat stance. So it would probably be a case of, are you actually pushing hard enough? Because with the toes back, all you have to do is really be directed with the heels. Because if you're driving the heels down, I mean, you're not going to slip anywhere. That's going to create your force back. Why most lifters don't get much out of the feet flat type leg drive is because they're just not pushing hard enough. For example, I just started working with one of our newer athletes, and he was benching off a wooden platform. Those traditional, you see deadlift platforms with the wood middle, and he had his feet on the wood middle. And I told him, with a wooden platform, the case is 10 times out of 10, that's not going to be enough traction to hold you in place. So if your feet aren't slipping, something's wrong with that scenario. All right, he felt he was conducting good leg drive, which I totally understand because that's always how he's done it. But I told him on the wood, you should be slipping. Because what happens is most time we're just not pushing enough because we realize our feet are going to slip on whatever we're benching on. And instead of looking to add traction, we just simply say, maybe I just need to put my feet back more, or I'm just pushing too hard or something. With the feet flat, there's no such thing as pushing too hard. You need to make sure the environment you're pushing on is a good quality traction. So if you bench on wood, for example, if your feet aren't sliding in a feet flat stance, there's a big problem with that. Put a rug down, put a piece of yoga mat, something under your feet, spray some stickum spray, something, because 10 times out of 10, it's just the lifter's not pushing hard enough in that feet flat stance. So again, to come back to your question there, Logan Barbell, no, there's no great in between. There's that style or feet flat style, and then you can start playing with variations. But I would go with what's giving you the best results right now. Obviously, I just kind of gave you some reason why to try the feet flat a little bit longer, potentially try to get more out of that if you're feeling more stable. But overall, I would just pretty much stick to what you're feeling more confident with at the moment. NYZ's in here. What's up, my friend? Recommendations on any good kettlebell exercises that I can do that will complement my main lifts. In terms of kettlebells for bench pressing, I really don't use those too often. If I did, it would be more probably for mobility type work, in terms of like a kettlebell armbar type of deal. A great mobility exercise. Um, Use it to correct wrist position with a bottom up kettlebell hold. But other than that, I don't really use them too much for the bench press per se. Now, if you're gonna throw in squats and deadlifts, deadlifts being the D word on this channel, then I would see a lot more value in them. I would use them for like suitcase holds, farmer's walks, kettlebell swings, teaching a hip hinge, goblet squats. So I feel like they have a much better application to what you're gonna do with a squat or the hip hinging movements, like the deadlift. So then I would use kettlebells more, but not as much for benching. Mostly I use them at my gym to hang on the bamboo bar, as you know. So yeah, that's pretty much all I use them for, other than correcting wrist position or doing them for mobility work. JB 01201 and 990. A lot of numbers there, my friend. Any advice for bicep pain after bench? Never happened before. So bicep pain, anytime I traditionally receive bicep pain, it was mostly due to overuse, just doing too much pressing. Um, but that's really the only time that flared up much. So I'm not sure what the case is for you. If you're doing a lot of pressing, I'd probably just relax on that. I would also check out your forearms as well. I would often get a lot of discomfort around that elbow region, and deep tissue massage really helped me out with that. And with everything crossing that elbow joint, going through a lot of pressing, if you don't take care of those tissues rolling out the triceps time to time, and really getting good work done on your forearms, that's something that can kind of flare up more readily. So I definitely always looked to get into supinated positions more often. So I would do my band pull apart supinated. Just try to get into positions that I wouldn't normally train as much. Do my pull downs supinated. I would do the X hand band there. You put that little finger loops, and what you do is work your extensors. So you're working your forearms and extension there, versus always clenching down on the bar. The natural resting state of my hand wants to close right up on me. So just being conscious of working things you don't normally work, and taking care of that with some good soft tissue. I'm going to move this pad right over here, so I'm not looking in two different places the whole time. That's much better. Sip of coffee tea, guys. I don't know if you can hear, got a little jazz music going on in the back, setting the mood for y'all. All right, Logan barbell. I have bench tomorrow, so definitely try out the feet flat stance a little more. So yeah, let me know what you're benching on too, my friend. If it's a commercial gym, forget about it. You're not gonna be benching on anything good. So that'll tell me right away. If you're in a commercial gym, you probably want something on your feet. So that's usually the quickest way to get more leg drive, is to go to that toes back stance when you're at a commercial gym, because otherwise your feet are probably gonna be slipping on whatever ground they have there, whatever flooring they're using. Anything here? Oh, we got some questions coming in through YouTube. OHJ, do you ever work with less than 60 he said dollar sign. I imagine that's percentage of your 1 rep max for hypertrophy purposes. Yes, mostly high rep feet up type work, whether it's a recovery day or it's on the back end of the bench day in terms of main exercises. But yes, definitely, and for any variations too, such as a Thompson press. So if we do like feet up Thompson presses, which is just an overspeed eccentric, you're kind of letting the weight drop real quick. You're not going to need as much weight because it's a tough variation or any long pause stuff. But in terms of hypertrophy, don't do a ton of high rep comp benching, but definitely like feet up, close grip, stuff like that. Dark Gamer BG, if I bench 200 kilograms with help from friend, can I bench 200 kilograms with single ply? That's a really tough one. I'm assuming 200 kilograms is someone helping you up a little bit. That's not working in a single ply shirt though. So I mean, once you get the shirt on, you're gonna realize there's a whole bunch of other shit that you're gonna have to dial in. So it's not the same at all. Adam MC. Man, I was having a question about my bench. On one side, the bar is higher than the other. Have any tips to fix that? Yeah, so I literally just put out a video last week, I believe, or the week prior, but very recent. So I'll go to our YouTube channel. It's how to fix uneven lockout. And usually it comes down to a mobility issue within maybe your scapular retraction or something. So I would first just look at how you're moving, if you're able to actually lock down and retract well. But then the quick fix for that would just be bringing your finger out a little bit on the one side that is a bit higher, okay? So that's a real easy quick fix, and that'll prevent that bar from leaning to one side. But obviously you want to find the root of the issue. And check out that video too. Carl Dezonson Resenzi. What can you say about overhead press to bench press ratio? What is your 1 rep max in overhead press? That's hard to say because I don't really know what my 1 rep max raw is right now. I guess at the time that I did that raw max, it was this last year, early last year, 440. My overhead max, I want to say, was 265. Something like that. I forget the direct numbers, but there's a Poliquin article on T Nation that has all those types of ratios relative to like your bench press 1 rep max strength. So where in relation your close grip bench should be, where in relation your overhead press should be. It's all figurative. There's no set thing that says if this does go up or it's a better ratio that your bench is going to get better. But for the most part, he said it was about 60%. That's the number I've always kind of kept in mind, is you want your overhead press to at least be 60% of your 1 rep max bench. For most people, it is not. Therefore, I feel like up to that point, you can really get a good return off of doing overhead pressing for your bench press. However, once you hit that 60%, I'm not sure if you're going to get much out of continuing to do overhead press. All right, because again, point of diminishing returns, you're going to have to find the next weak point to bring up. Getting your bench up is oftentimes just trying to rework what the hell is my weak point and then hitting that. And that just takes some trial error. It's like putting together a puzzle. Adam says, hi, man. Having a quick question about my bench. Oh, I think I just answered that on YouTube, my friend. Thanks for tuning in on both. Oh, knock this thing right over on you guys. And we got a plant in the way. All right, here we go. JB, thanks, sir. Username, numbers, birth year, birth date. That makes sense. I do something similar. And Adam says, you can see the problem in my latest Instagram post. So I believe I just addressed that, my friend. So let me know if you have any more questions on there. I'm going to get to some questions on the Instagram. What is a good anterior delt exercise? So for anterior delts, really the only thing that I do isolative for them would be some kind of a front raise variation, whether it be with bands, cables, dumbbells. Um, you switch up the angles of it, more like a incline front raise if you're on the face down on an incline bench. Just changing up variables like that, that's really kind of the only isolation work that I would do. But obviously when you're pressing, if it's an overhead press especially, you're getting anterior delt work. So I would say landmine press, overhead press with a barbell, dumbbell. I mean, these are all ways that I probably get most of my stimulus on the anterior delt, other than front raises and whatnot. Got the question, do you think a Bench Daddy shirt is a good beginner shirt? And the way I'd answer this is yes and no. So if you're looking to transition into something, a bench shirt, the Bench Daddy is going to be a very, very friendly progression into that. Meaning, you could throw a Bench Daddy shirt on, not have much experience in bench shirts, and instantly probably gain about 200 pounds to your bench, maybe. Once you get used to the overload, maybe even more. But if you are looking to actually use poly shirts, your traditional bench shirt, whether it be single or multi-ply, the Bench Daddy's not going to set you up for success in that. So it really depends. Are you going to stay with a Bench Daddy type shirt? One of the quote-unquote banded shirts that you just saw the world record broken in by Will Barati, 1105. Are you going to stay with those, or are you actually going to use a traditional poly shirt? Because that's really where the argument comes in, because they aren't like each other. They require different grooves. It's a different feel, different material. One's going to slice into you real nasty. It's not comfortable for many. And then the other one, toss it on, toss it off. Not a big deal. It's like wearing a slingshot. So that's like where that argument comes in. So I would say, yes, it's a great beginner shirt if you want to get into some kind of an overload type of lift in your bench, but it's not a good shirt at all if you're actually looking to learn the poly game. Okay, so just beware there. Matt says, do you like a standing or seated overhead press? I much prefer standing, because then I can actually get the lower body tight, the hips in check, which I think is a really important thing. Not that you necessarily can lift as much as seated, because I think those two numbers can be very relative, but there's just so much more engagement, and I think you're training a better pattern. That makes sense. Other than seated, where I feel like vast majority of lifters can kind of just hang out in that seated position. They're not really keeping their midsection braced well. Additional loads on the spine and lower back. But, however, many of our athletes train in basement gyms and things like that, and just don't have the ceiling room. And in that scenario, we are going to do a seated overhead press instead. I feel like that would be the next best thing. I would just emphasize trying to get the lower body tight still, create that hip tension. Michael Marcoux, checking in from Norway. What's up, my friend? Greetings from Norway. Hope you're all good down there, up there, over there, whatever the hell you want to call it. Logan Barbell. Since I am weak off the chest, I try to focus on my accessories on delts, upper back. How much tricep work should I be doing after the main weak point accessories? Also, how many accessories should I be doing per session? 4 to 6. So for accessories and triceps primarily, so me being mainly a bench-only competitor, I'm trying to hit triceps whenever I train in some capacity. If it's a bench day, how I get a little bit more volume in, how I get some more volume for our athletes is to superset some tricep moves. So since we're already training triceps, we'll just go through a bigger superset instead of doing, do your triceps, a back exercise, all that. We're trying to hammer like 3 different tricep exercises in a superset fashion to hit more volume on the tris. But I would say accessories, we're probably getting in, There's a back superset, tricep superset, maybe one more like a shoulder movement, something like that. So I would say about 5, 6 accessory movements would be a safe bet. That's what most of our athletes are doing. But yeah, for triceps, I train them as often as I can. I don't think you can really overtrain those as much. I think you can overtrain big movements, but small isolation movements, I don't think you can really overtrain per se. The back work too, every session, trying to get some back work in, I think that's very valuable as well. Don't think you can overtrain that. So if I have athletes that are traditionally used to training 7 days a week, 6 days a week, it's just kind of what they do. It's in their habit. And then I'm like, I really think we should do a 4-day schedule, 3-day schedule. If they want to do more work on those quote unquote off days, I always say back is fair game, hamstrings, glutes. If they're bench only, triceps. So, hope that helps. Brian the Hulk Forbes, what's up, my friend? Appreciate you dropping in. I'm doing well. How are you doing? So you just had an awesome meet out there. That seemed like it was a great time. I'm actually going to, well, I have a meet in August 15th. I'm actually going to a meet in a couple weeks, and I can't wait. It's an RPS meet. We're just going to set up, help out, and whatnot. And, so we'll see how that goes. Mr. Nako sign. Hey, do you regret taking steroids? That's not really a topic that we're going to touch on too much in here, my friend. Brian the Hulk Forbes, I'm great. Glad to hear it, my friend. And Brian just hit, what'd you hit, 825? That is a fantastic bench, my friend. Very proud of you for taking that on. That's a great, great bench. And it looked like that meet ran great. So, very happy for you. Lift the Mailman, what's up, my friend? Got some more cues dropping in. 821.2. That's a great bench. Got me now. Now you beat me. You topped me off. So now I gotta come back, huh? All right, best bench in a shirt. What is my best bench in a shirt? 820 pounds. So I was just saying, Brian just beat me by 1.2 pounds. So now I gotta come back. Mr. Noko sign, I've tried your tips and my bench is 375 for 5 reps. That's awesome, my friend. I'm glad that's working out for you. Let me know what tip in general helped you out. Rocco Walsh, hey Ben, hope all is well. Are dumbbell pullovers or pullovers in general a staple exercise in your bench training? Don't do many pullovers personally. We do the lying lap pullover, which I'm really big on. This is something that I prescribe to our athletes very frequently. And it's pretty much like the takeout of a bench. So you're just dragging out, crunching down on this PVC bar. And that's a great one for training your back, how it's going to be used relative to the bench press. So in that case, we use that pullover a lot. I don't do any dumbbell pullovers or anything like that, other than what's in the Dirty 30s, which is a great exercise superset by, I think got popularized by Jason Coker. I'm not sure if he came up with that, but he would do a finisher called the Dirty 30, and it's a 10 reps of skull crushers, 10 reps of, with the easy curl bar, doing pullovers, and then 10 reps as well of close grip to finish it off. So that's the only time I'm really getting pullovers other than the lying banded. Brian says, nope, your weight is lower. I weigh 283 and compete at 308s. Well, however you want to spin it, my friend. That's still a big bench. Got me by a little bit. Body weight don't matter. Body weight don't matter. No body weights in the jungle, right? But proud of you, buddy. That's awesome. And he's going for 850 to 870 on Halloween. I'm going to be at my bud's wedding on Halloween. I'm very excited for that. I'm excited to get out and see people in general, which I can't wait for this meet coming up. See lifters again, kind of get back to a normal. I seen that they down in the South, Florida, all that, California, they just closed gyms again. So hope that's not for long, but you know, it's been tough on everyone. And just, you know, even if you can train, just what are you training for? You know, just trying to get as strong as you can in the moment. Because we can't, there's nothing we can really plan for too much, depending on where you're living. Everything's getting canceled. Logan Barbell loves the dirty 30s. I try to fit them in every session. Yeah, it's a great way to finish it. I feel like I have to get away from it every now and then because I start to lose the return value on them. So I like them just as a way every now and then to, just like cycling any of the accessories, right? You don't want to stick with the same ones forever. You know, some things like a barbell row is a staple, but you still want to get some variations in there. Dirty 30s will treat them like how I cycle any of my accessories, you know, 3-4 weeks in a row, and got to move on to something else because then you don't really get the effect is great. You know, progress starts to slow down, but come right back to them. West Coast Barbell, what's up, my friends? All right, guys, anyone have any questions? Just drop them below. Justin Dacky, is there a reason why I mostly feel my shoulders more than triceps in close grip bench? So you potentially might be too close there, my friend, or you might be touching too high. Or you might just be a very long-armed bencher, and you'd probably do better doing the close grip off boards. And Rocco Wall says, good stuff, much appreciated. Mr. Nokosign, like I'm a heavy-looking guy like yourself. The glutes tip. I'm not sure what you're mentioning with the glutes tip, my friend, if you want to clarify on that. So I did put out some content on squeezing your glutes in the setup. So that is going to help protect your lower back. So anyone that has some lower back discomfort when setting up to bench, squeezing your glutes, being more aware of what you're doing, that's going to help protect your lower back and also engage your leg drive to a much larger degree. We got another question here from Instagram. Trouble keeping shoulders tucked tight benching. More upper back work. Was a question. So this individual is having a hard time keeping their shoulders tucked and in a tight position. They're asking if they should do more upper back work. So not always necessarily. So there is a strength component. Obviously, when your back is stronger in the right places, it's going to be easier to do this stuff. So I'm always a proponent of more back work. More upper back work in general is fantastic. But it also, so for example, this past weekend, I had a terrible bench session. It was not good because I just could not keep my shoulders in the right position. Exactly what you're talking about here. I just could not stay tucked. All right. I could not. Once I start to press, I was drifting to my shoulders, and I knew it was happening. I just couldn't do anything about it. Usually, when my traps get real tight, like I've been getting real tight up in here, even just turning my head around, I've been getting real stiff. Hopefully, we can get back on the routine massage and things this week. But when that's the case, or I'm locked up in an area, it's hard to maintain that tightness and that tension. So it could be just that you have to really work some soft tissue in a specific area, and then you can better use the strength that you do have in order to keep that pinched down. Logan Barbell, since there's really no meets to train for and I want to focus on my bench more, I've been thinking about switching to more of a bench-focused program. Any tips on going into a program like that? So now there's two different forms of training someone for bench only. So I have lifters who train bench only but are just committed strictly to the bench press. And I have bench only lifters who train bench only but still want to stay relevant with their squat and their deadlift, meaning they might compete in them down the road, or they simply just want to have good overall strength. So it sounds like that would be the case for you. Like you still want to be generally strong with your lower body, your deadlift, your squat. So the tip I would have for you, if you want to focus on your bench a bit more, is if you're only doing 1 day currently, I would definitely always recommend 2 days. But I would throw in an accessory day. This is pretty much what I'm doing as well. Throw in an accessory day where perhaps you definitely hit back, but then hit some more triceps or whatever your weak point is, and you have more shoulders. Do some overhead pressing, things like that. But add that additional day in, and then I would even tack in a little bit of accessory work that can help you out on your lower body day, your squat deadlift day. And I would do those two movements together in the same day, squat and deadlift. I would put those together on the same day. Then I would even sprinkle in some bench accessory in there too, so that you're basically hitting the bare minimum on the squat and the deadlift. You're still training them. You're training the exact movement, but the rest of your training is really all encompassed around trying to get your bench strength up. So that's what I would recommend if you're going to make that transition. Lift the Mailman hit a 225 incline. I use the hovering glutes tip. Yeah, that's a big help. I appreciate that, my friend. I'm glad that worked out well for you. The hovering glutes, guys, if you're not sure what he's talking about there, that's where I explain you want to have your hips in the highest position. So you need to touch the bench by rule. Your bench press isn't complete if your hips weren't on the pad. So what I want someone to focus on is when they're creating leg drive. So this is the pad. If you're watching, all right, I have my hand out. This is the pad. And your thumb's the butt. Here's your butt right here. So I can have a lot of pressure. This is, if I'm putting a lot of pressure into the pad, I'm not using my glutes well. Okay, I want the pad, say there's a scale on the pad. I need my butt to touch the scale, but I don't want the scale to read weight. Okay, now this is just lightly touching the pad. All right, you can do that, but now I want to really maximize it. So I want to get in the best position possible, driving back into my traps. I need to have my hips barely in contact, but I need to have that contact. That's the important thing, is that there's contact, but your hips aren't putting any weight into the pad. They're staying high. I think explaining it as hovering hips is a great way to get the point across. Okay, you have the bare minimal of contact, because all that extra is being used to increase your positioning. And Matt says, when going out on a date, how long are you supposed to wait before dropping your bench numbers? I think that would be a good practice just to do that right off the bat, so someone knows what they're getting into. So if you're out with a lady, and I think it's fair to just put the number out there, because especially if they're a lifter as well, I think that's important. And I think the bench press holds the most stock, because you need to have a good chest. You need to have a full chest. So that's a good question, my friend. Get the number out there quick. Then you know what her expectations are too. So if she's expecting 200 bench press, that's too low. You got to have a higher expectation there too. Peace be with you. I was told behind the neck press and pull down are bad for your shoulders. Your thoughts? So I don't necessarily think those are bad. I think some of those movements require a large range of motion, which most lifters don't have. So putting yourself in a position where you're in a compromised mobility type position, right, like a behind the neck anything, I think many powerlifters lack the mobility to do anything behind the neck like that. So unless it's a very strict controlled, like a pull down, I'm fine with, because I can stop at a certain point where I'm restricted. But if I'm just forcing myself through there with weight on my back, I would never want anyone to do that. This is going to set you up for injury because you don't have the range of motion to do that, and that weight is just pushing you through a really um, tricky zone there. Like with a external rotation too. That's why I always say if you're doing any external rotation with a dumbbell, I came back like this, externally rotate with a dumbbell. I'm lying on the ground. You got to be careful with that. I've effed up my shoulders a little bit doing that because that dumbbell is going to force you into range of motion that you're not strong in, and that can be a setup for injury. So you just have to be very careful there. But I wouldn't say they're bad. I'd just say, it's like Olympic lifting requires a lot of range of motion, requires a lot of technique and practice, and you need to be strong in the positions that you need to be strong in, and you really have to make sure that's dialed in. So there's a higher risk to reward. Peace be with you says, I usually wait until I go in for the kiss to seal the deal. And that's, I guess, when you drop your bench number, right? So make sure that you peaked, you hit your best bench before that date. Logan Barbell, I've never had a coach of personalized programming before. What does the Big Bench's coaching and programming look like? Well, I can't really tell you what it's going to look like, my friend, because that's going to be a little bit different for everyone. I have been doing more of a pre-fatigue type bench cycle with most of our athletes. So that is something where it's like a 12-week cycle. The beginning, you're doing volume overload, and then your comp bench, and then the comp bench just keeps climbing up in that order. So you're really hitting your comp bench under pre-fatigue conditions, and then at the end of the 12-week cycle, you're hitting it fresh right off the bat to see what you can do. And that's something I've been utilizing more with our lifters, seeing some really good results with. But I really can't tell you what that's going to look like for you because that's going to be a bit different. You already explained that. You're kind of looking to transition to a bench-only type of deal. So really tough to say there. But anyone that would be interested in learning more about our coaching program, whatnot, what you're going to want to do is go to, so if you're watching on YouTube, the link is in the description box. And if you're going to, if you're on Instagram, the link is in the bio, all right? And it's an application form, asks you some questions. I need some background information on everyone. And from there, we can chat about how, to best get you into the coaching program and, what that's going to entail. And I'll give you a little more detail on that. So that's what you can do if you are interested on that. Lift the Mailman, would you consider Westside Conjugate to be a bench-focused program, upper-lower split with deadlift and squat combined? Seems like half of training is bench, the other half squat and deadlift. Well, no, I would definitely wouldn't say it's a bench-focused program, nor would I think many others because, you're still training squat and deadlift, obviously, a lot. Can you make the Conjugate program a bench-only program? Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure you can spin a variation off that. I actually like the Conjugate programming in general a little bit more for squatting and deadlifting than I do for benching because I don't think, well, first I think it gets kind of butchered, speed work for the bench. I think oftentimes it's way too heavy. The bar weight is way too high. You can use bar weight as low as like 40% in most cases. I see too much band tension getting loaded up on the bar. So it's just speed work gets butchered a little bit too much, and I think lifters could probably benefit more from just getting some more volume work in. And therefore, the Conjugate system, I think it can be made to work well for the bench, but I think there's another way to train bench that could be a little bit more conducive. But there's always ways to spin the Conjugate method to fit you personally. Like, for example, if you train alone, if you train in a home gym, you don't have people around, I don't see you going in and maxing out. Especially if you don't have much equipment and you're limited in your variations. I don't see you going in and hitting a max on all these variations a conducive way to train, especially training alone. If you go to a gym, you have about 8 other people, maybe you're squatting with in a group or something, you're all egging each other on, you're all pushing each other, talking shit. And hey, conjugate style might be good because in that type of environment, when you're all pushing each other to the next level, that's where you can really feed off that energy and get stronger. And therefore, pretty much on Fridays here, we bench. And those who on the team who are able to train locally with us, I mostly have them doing max effort type benching because we're all kind of feeding off the energy of trying to push each other to that next level, that we benefit from a style of programming a bit more like that. So, but if you're training alone in your basement, I mean, it's kind of tough to get motivated to that capacity. So I do think there is a better way to train in those scenarios. So again, it just comes down to what's going on with you. Mr. Noko Science says my son is 12, and I'm telling him, go to the gym so he can get girls, but he is such a scrawny boy. Any advices? I'll make him watch Arnold vids. I don't know if I can help you with that one, my friend. I can tell you, back in the day, how I kind of got started in lifting. My dad brought me down to the basement, and he always says he's very surprised I'm doing what I'm doing now because I did not want to train. I did not want to go down to the basement and train with him. Once we got going, I enjoyed it, but at that age, I just kind of want to go outside and play football with the guys, or play video games or something. So I didn't really feel like training, especially in the winter. It's super cold down there and shit. So I was reluctant at first too. But once you get your first taste of seeing results, because once you start picking up weights for the first time, you're going to see your body changing. It's not going to be like that forever, because it just takes time. But those quote-unquote newbie gains, they come quickly. Okay, they come quickly, and once you get a taste of actually seeing that progress, it's like with anything. You need to have a taste of progress to really get attached to it and delve into it. You need to see some growth happening. And it's the same way, now too. You want to see numbers progress on the bar. It's a change you can see. It makes you feel good about yourself. It keeps feeding that fire, so give them some small wins is the best thing I can say. Someone who's having a hard time getting motivated or anything, pile up some small wins. And it doesn't have to necessarily be a new PR. It could be something super small, like you get rewarded for doing your 3 days training a week. Offer him some kind of reward if he says he's going to train consistent 3 times a week, and if he does it, he gets that reward or something that he'll enjoy, and it'll make him want to do that again. And then maybe he'll start seeing some body changes and stuff like that, and then that'll get you excited and kind of snowballs from there. Because I never liked training starting out. It wasn't something I was into. 12, I think, is fine. It's young, but if you do it correctly, you focus on technique, I think that that can be appropriate. Michael Marcoux. Hello, Big Ben. Question. How much do 584 pounds raw plus bench with 2 board on the chest translate to approximately? This was my NR 11th set in a pyramid, start from 10 rep on 308. I'm sorry, my friend. I think we might have a communication problem there. I'm not sure what you're trying to get across. So if you can maybe rework that a little bit. All right, guys. So we're running out of questions here now. I went through everything on Instagram the other day. And again, on Mondays, I post in our stories the question box where you can drop your questions. Okay? So make sure every Monday that you follow us on Instagram, make sure you drop your question in so I can answer it. Logan Barbell. I've never used a shirt before, and I know last week you said the Bench Daddy has more of a raw groove, but I just got mine, and it's super stiff and it touches low like a shirt. Do you think this is a good way to get into gear? Again, no, I don't think it's a good way to get into if you're going to transition to a poly shirt. So if you're planning to use an Inzer SDP, a Titan Super Katana, any of the metal shirts too, and I know kind of metal got tossed out of there, but no, I don't think they're the same things. I've used the Bench Daddy shirt as well, and you're meant more so to spread into it and stay at a higher touch zone, it being more straight up and down. You could probably work it like a poly shirt, but and it's going to feel maybe like an in between a raw and a poly shirt, but it's just not going to operate how it should like a poly shirt. So it's a different groove. Again, I think it's great for someone getting into it to handle some overload of weight, and now that competitions are starting to accept that, right, you can actually jump in and do a competition like that. So if you want to roll with that, I think that's fine. You're probably not going to need as many different shirts as well. I think you can be effective in just one for a good amount of time, whereas a traditional poly shirt, like I'm training with 3 different shirts right now. After this meet, I'm already going to need another shirt. The things stretch out on you. Accompany that with some weight loss. If you really want to be dialed in with how much you get out of a poly shirt, traditional bench shirt, you're really going to have to be willing to buy a lot of shirts and get your hands on a lot of shirts to maximize the rebound you can get out of them. Once they're used, they're broken in enough. Unless you're getting bigger or you're modifying the shirt itself, you're losing that pop. So you either get a new shirt, or you get it modified. If you really want to maximize what you can get out of it. So, Howard Weingarten, I seen your last YouTube video from Santa Cruz. I'm the old guy from that seminar. I remember you, Howard. You don't got to introduce yourself, my friend. Who was having problems touching with my SDP. I finally got 600 touching. That's awesome. Let me know what helped you get to that point. But absolutely, I remember you there, Howard. That was a fun one. That was a fun clinic. I can't wait to get back to getting out to clinics again. We do have one August 29th. That's in Vermont. So if anyone is interested, and I'm glad that was brought up because I did want to let everyone know if you're in the northern states area, you're looking to get out, do something fun, learn some technique on the bench press and shit. This is going to be the clinic that you're going to want to go to. August 29th up at Jamie Mata's gym, Fairhaven Fitness, and he has a great setup in there. That's where my meet is August 15th. So anyone in the north there that wants to come to Vermont, it's going to be a dual clinic. So Jamie actually taught me a lot in the bench shirt when I was first starting out, believe it or not. So he's been in powerlifting for a long, long time, and we're doing a dual bench clinic. And I'm hoping to even get this filmed too, but you're going to want to be there August 29th. You can sign up on bigbenches.com and our bench clinics page. And we also have one in Canada October 3rd that is going on. That is in St. John's, Newfoundland. I'm not familiar with the area, so St. John's, Newfoundland, whatever the area is, maybe that's all Labrador, Newfoundland. I see all these different names for the area, but I will be there October 3rd, so if you're in that Canada area. Those are the 2 we have on schedule right now. And then again, I know with gym closers, it makes things a little bit difficult, but if anyone knows a gym that's operating now and would like to host a clinic, I'm fine with traveling out there and putting on a great clinic for you guys and helping you out. So just let me know. You can message me. Alex, what's up, Alex? He says, what's up, coach? How much benefit do you find get out of board pressing on the bench? Could you explain the science a bit more behind it? So I got back to you the other day on that a little bit, and I don't think there's a big benefit in terms of increasing technique, full range technique, obviously because you're not working full range. So I don't think the benefit really comes in, obviously you're not working full range, but I think by handling more weight, and I guess that would be the science of it, handling more weight is going to teach you what you need to do in terms of creating tightness and whatnot, applying the correct leg drive to really move that weight effectively. You're going to have a greater appreciation for that. So that's why heavy holds are awesome, board pressing, heavy eccentrics, any of that type of overload training, slingshot even. When you have more weight in your hands, it makes you kick up what you're doing technique-wise, kicks it up a notch. So in terms of creating tightness, board pressing is a great exercise for that. In terms of dialing in specific technique while you're moving with the barbell full range, I don't think it's going to help with that. For example, you're going to have a hard time really loading your back with a board press. So you're not really going to get those types of benefits, but just from the sheer having to hold that weight and then to move it effectively, you are going to get better at creating tightness. And then also board pressing, great for the triceps. So if you're a longer armed bencher, you're probably going to see more board pressing than is, say, someone like myself where I don't have much range. I'm not going to do too much with board, especially raw. But a raw bencher who has a good amount of range of motion. Alex, I'd say you're right on the fringe of that category too. Board pressing is going to be very valuable for you because it's also going to build up that top end strength, allow you to target the triceps a little bit more effectively. But obviously, it needs to be accompanied with full range work. It needs to be accompanied with full range work. You don't want to just go strictly on a board cycle. You want to have in some capacity full range in there, and for yourself having the feet up volume, the comp benching. I mean, all that's taken care of what we need to in terms of actually grooving that technique. But board pressing more so that overload, what we get out of the overload, and then hitting the triceps, lockout strength and whatnot. So hopefully that's getting at what you want me to mention there, my friend. Howard Weingarten. All the setup you taught us, taking that to heart and working hard to get it down. Thanks a lot. Well, I'm glad to hear it, bud. I guess what I would say to that is being patient. So the setup, what I see too often is that dump touching. The dump touching just in an effort to maybe get that last inch or two. And that's the struggle that some of our athletes have that work in shirts, is that dump touch near the end. They get locked up right at the bottom there. They're not patient with it. They don't continue to pull with their back. They just kind of dump the forearms forward and try to throw back. But that's not going to really give you that spring that the shirt can provide. So I'm glad those things rang home for you, my friend. I'm glad that you're getting weight down to touch. It's also just really dialing in whatever shirt you're using, breaking it in to the point it needs to be broken in, making any adjustments you need to adjust, but always staying in the path of most resistance when it comes to equipment. All right, guys, so we answered a lot of different stuff today. I'm running out of time here on the Instagram. They're going to shut me down in just about a minute. We're hitting that hour mark. Appreciate everyone tuning in. Hopefully you continue to find these very helpful, can get some specific feedback. I really appreciate everyone who tunes in. Again, if you want to get involved with our team, you can go to bigbenches.com. Our VIP membership would be the way to do that. You're going to receive exclusive content videos. So we're also talking squat and deadlifting there. So if you like the bench videos, you'll like those. We're running a challenge right now, the 10K a day step challenge. So trying to get everyone moving. So we do challenges, giveaways. You're going to get coaching critiques. You can send me your videos. I'll let you know what I think on those. We have a great community of lifters. So I would love to see you involved with that program. Again, you get free program templates if you're looking for something to train with, free programs there, and 50% off our online course. So thank everyone for joining in. It has been great chatting with you all, and I will see y'all next week. Appreciate it, everyone.